Okay, let's say you have an InDesign document. You have a logo that's black and white, text only, fairly simple, and you want to bring that logo into InDesign, but be able to change the black or the color inside of InDesign. So again, this is going to work okay for something that's fairly simple. Maybe you're starting, it's a one color logo. Maybe it's got a few variations on color. It's better shown than explained, so let me do that. I'll explain what these things are for. You'll see what those things are for here in a second. I'm going to jump over from InDesign. I'm using 2023 to Illustrator. I just happen to be using the older versions at the time of this recording. So we have our logo here. It's text-based. We still have it in text form. It's editable. So I can go ahead and change the font. I can do a lot of different things here. It's always a good idea to keep an editable version of your logo so that you can go back to it in the future if you need to make any adjustments. Fairly simple, just an example. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift and O, and that's going to take me into the artboard here. You can see that down here in the tools panel on the left, artboard tool. Shift plus O on your keyboard. That's going to give me the ability to hold down my Option key or the Alt key if you're on a PC. And I'm just going to hold down the Shift key just so I can drag another artboard out. So now if we come into our artboards panel over here on the right, you can see I have a copy. Okay, so I'm going to get out of artboard view, and I'm going to go ahead and select with my black arrow tool everything on this second artboard, and I'm going to come up to Type and go down to Create Outlines. So that is Shift Command O on the Mac. It'll be Shift Control O on a Windows platform. So let's do that. We see we have everything in outlines ready to go. Now this is where they'll go ahead and save the file. Maybe they'll export it. It's an AI file. And then they'll go in to InDesign and they'll come up to Command D, place, and they'll place the Illustrator or EPS file or SVG or whatever it may be in vector form into InDesign. But we don't want to do that for this particular way that we can get this into InDesign. Excuse me. So we're going to select everything again with our black arrow tool. We're going to select everything that's been outlined. That's what we did. We turned everything into shapes. And we're going to copy, Command or Control C, and we're going to just shift back over to InDesign. So I have it kind of tucked here behind Illustrator just so we can move them around. And I'm going to just make sure I have my pages open. I got one page here, and I'm just going to Command or Control V on the keyboard. That's going to paste it. So we have it pasted here, and we can see this little dotted line around the outside. Don't worry too much about that. So now that we've brought it in to InDesign by just copying and pasting, making sure both applications are open, we can come into our swatches panel, and we see a question mark. That's because InDesign is seeing this gray in example and the black as separate colors. Rightfully so. So let's go ahead and see what happens. If we click on any of the color swatches that are produced, we can see we can switch the color. And that's all great. So let's go back a few steps. Command Z. Let's go back to the beginning. I'm just hitting Command or Control Z to get back. Here we have our pasted version of the logo. If we take our direct selection, that's the white arrow here in InDesign on the left, and we zoom in, let's just zoom in real quickly. I'm holding down Command and Spacebar on a Mac, and that's giving me the ability to zoom in. You can do it other ways, but I'm going to take that white arrow tool and I'm going to just select around example. And you can see it's treated as shapes, much like it was in Illustrator. So we can go ahead and adjust our colors that way too. So you can see we got a couple of different things here. It's a little bit easier when the logo is separate from the subtext here, this logo text here at the top. But let's just say we wanted that green, very holiday oriented there, so we got that. So we've just basically selected the shapes and colored them. You can do a lot of different things. So again, this works really well if it's just a text-based logo, one color logo, where it's just shapes, everything's flattened, ready to go. When you get into more complex things, it can be a little more problematic, more of a challenge. So let's just say we want to drop this logo over top of this blue box down here. And I'm just going to show you that really quickly. You know what I like to do is I like to take all of my images in this case, just so that we don't inadvertently select things. I'm going to go into my layers panel and I'm just going to create a new layer. And then after I've selected both of these shapes by just dragging around both of them or clicking on the first one and then shift clicking on the second one, you see this little blue dot in the layers panel. We can just move that up to this newly created layer. I'm just dragging that dot up, so now everything is in the red layer, layer 2. So we see that here. And it's actually selected now. The elements are selected and they have a red box around them or red line around them. Okay, so I'm going to just drag that below and I'm going to lock it. And so our logo up here is now still on layer 1. You can see it just went right up to layer 1 when we selected it. I'm going to move that down. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to grab things, but let's just say I want it over top of this box. And you can see the colors, they don't look so great. They're vibrating actually because they're so close in their intensity here. So I'm going to select around it. And let's just say I want something more contrasting. Let's go with yellow. Oftentimes, picking the complementary color is going to be a good way to do that. But you want to make sure that it's fairly intense. So there we go. And of course I can change the box color to whatever I want by just going to that layer 2 that we created. So we got that over top. Let's just say we had it over a photo, and that doesn't look so bad. But I want to bring it over here so we get some more contrast in there. Let's just say I have this on a cover or something and I want my logo to just be white. Well, that's pretty easy now that everything is one color. We can just select paper. You could go blue, whatever color you want. So that's really the best way, the most efficient way to bring in vectors into the InDesign document. You're just outlining things first in Illustrator, again on another artboard so you have a workable copy, and then you can bring it in that way. Ideally, if you're not changing your logo a whole lot, it's best to just do it all in Illustrator to create various versions that are ready to go, and then you just copy and paste them, or actually you import them by artboard into InDesign. So you would have maybe 6 different versions in here. You could do it that way. But in a pinch and you want to do something quick, you just go into InDesign, copy and paste the outline version, and then you can go ahead and change colors. That's probably the most efficient way to do it. Another way to do it, if you're not worried too much about it losing some quality, and you want to convert everything to pixels, in other words, it won't be scalable up, but you can scale it down with no quality loss or minimal quality loss. You can go ahead and select this artboard. You really don't have to select anything. You just come up to File, Export, Export As, and let's see. I am going to, it says I want to do a PNG. I'm going to do a TIFF file here. and I'm going to select rather use artboards range 2. The reason why 2 is it's seeing them as pages. We had our first artboard had the editable material on it, and then the second one was the outline, so that would be the second artboard. So we just do range 2, and we would export it. Let's just see, I already did one earlier just for a test, but I'm going to go ahead and overwrite that. And it's going to ask me if I want to replace the original TIFF that I already created. You won't have this problem, but... And then when we get into color model, we want to make sure it's grayscale. If it's for print, we want high resolution, 300 ppi. And then we hit OK, and it's going to go ahead and export that. We're going to come back into InDesign, and then let's see, we're going to import, place. I got a lot of stuff here on my desktop. Been working on a project. Let's just go to sample. Just make sure this is being done correctly. There we go. We're going to go into the sample folder. This is something that I've created here just to hold everything while we're working on it. Text logo example.tiff. That's the TIFF that we just exported. So I'm going to go ahead and hit open. And it's going to, because I had image, let me do that again. That was just so fast. Place. When we select show import options, we're going to get kind of this in between dialog box that comes up. We're just going to hit open. We're going to get this image color. Don't worry about the color. Don't even really worry about image. We're just going to place this TIFF. So let's hit OK. And we can place the TIFF. Now, if it looks all choppy, you can come up to View, Display Performance, set it from either fast and typical display to high quality display. And there we go. So we have the logo. Now the problem with this is we can't select the individual pieces. We can only use this now to apply color. And if we do that, we see a box behind it. So if that happens, we'll do Command Z or Control Z. We're going to use our direct selection tool. That's going to select the image inside of the box. And rather than colorizing the box, we're going to colorize the content here. Let's see, this has got some issues sometimes. We're going to double click on it. That's going to select the image in the box. So we take our direct selection. We could actually just do that with the black arrow tool. So we just double select it, double click on it. It switches color, this outline. And now we can adjust it this way. But you see that gray text is really just becoming a lighter tinted version of the main color that we have selected here. So again, best way to do it, in my opinion, for what you want to do quickly, is to do it by copying the outlines from Illustrator, pasting the outlines, pasting them into InDesign. Do not import them, just paste them right in. And then you can go through all the methods and change the colors. So raster image, pixel-based image, it's okay if you're using it at this size or smaller. If you make it bigger, let's see, I always get that one wrong. I've been using InDesign for a couple of years, actually more than a couple of years. But you can see we got that issue. Another issue with the TIFF is if you drop it over, you can see the background there. It doesn't adjust the background. So again, we could have probably just stopped at showing you how to copy and paste outlines and just left it at that. But if you ever need to do something in a pinch, you can do it that way. You can also paste it into Photoshop or import it into Photoshop, save it out as a TIFF there with transparency, and then you could do the same thing that I'm doing now, where the background wouldn't be white. But that's for a whole nother lesson. So that's it. I hope this helps you. And again, yeah, Illustrator, copy, paste, then make your adjustments in here using the direct selection tool. And you have access to all the shapes. And it's scalable too. So you can scale it up with no quality loss. All vector shapes. That's it. Thank you for watching.